Welcome back to the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast. I am your host, Greg Waddell, joined by my favorite co-host, Dave, and I'm back after an off day on the Tuesday episode of this show. I was watching my Detroit Tigers wait 3 hours for a rain delay that never ended before getting wrecked in Game 3 of the ALDS. But I've got football bets to make with you, Dave. It's good to be back. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm all in on football now because my Yankees have been eliminated. It was not meant to be. Thought there might be the semblance of a comeback last night. It wasn't meant to be. So we will not be going head to head in the ALCS on the show, which would have been pretty fun. Maybe next year, or if by some grace of God the Cowboys make the playoffs, maybe we'll have a playoff matchup in the NFL we could dig into. Other than that, it's all football for me, baby.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I got to ask you this before we move right off of baseball. Judge was incredible this series and still doesn't get over the hump. Is he just cursed? What are the Yankees fan vibes with Aaron Judge right now?
It's got to feel a little bit like we're wasting some prime here. I mean, the guy's better in his 30s than he was before. He seemed to get the monkey off his back of the playoff issues. You know, he was dialed in this postseason. It's just, I don't know, kind of the same old story with the Yankees where they just don't show up hitting in the big spots. The pitching was kind of inexplicably bad this series. I mean, Fried with a bad game is kind of an early hump to get over in the series. So it sucks. You know, we'd like to see him capitalize on this. And, you know, if we can get 4 more seasons of this out of him, I think we'll enjoy the contract and be happy with it. But you'd like to see him at least get one, I think. So partly so that drop doesn't haunt him forever, which I imagine it probably is right now.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It feels like just every single year baseball is such a high variable sport in the postseason. I mean, like winning a 5-game series, if you are the underdog, it's just not that hard. Get hot at the right time. And
No,
I don't know. It was good to see Judge have individual success. I mean, you know this better than I do, but just I feel like being the New York Yankees superstar is one of the most thankless, hard jobs in all of sports. So for him to at least acquit himself, even in that last at bat, knowing this team was basically drawing dead, and he just so happened to be the guy at the plate that was going to make the final out, and he pipes one off the wall. Felt like there was at least a little bit of a personal, like, I'm not the problem here. That was good to see as an unbiased sports fan. But hey, we'll see. Tarek Skubal's got his own demons to deal with. My superstar right now, who's lost 3 straight to Seattle. And if Seattle beats him twice in a 5-game series, I don't know if I'm ever going to return to the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast, Dave. So we'll see. But hey, we've got football to discuss today. That is the plan. We've got Thursday night's game tonight, and we have plenty of different ways to attack Thursday night football. We will also unveil our first touchdown round robin, as we always do. We've got storylines for week 6 and plenty more to get to. But first, let's take a closer look at our futures model, because I hear that my Detroit Lions have some value right now, and I need a pick-me-up, Dave. Take me through it.
Yeah, well, for your Detroit sports, if all does not go well in Game 5, this should be a pretty good pick-me-up for you, that the Lions are holding some pretty nice value pretty much throughout the board here. I'm going to pull up our futures on screen, and we can kind of just look through this a little bit. First off, the Super Bowl, obviously the big one. And right now, all the value pretty much lies with the favorites, which is pretty interesting to see. Usually you think you're getting shortchanged on the better teams, but we're not really seeing that here. Our fair odds for the top 3 contenders of the Bills, Eagles, and Lions would be plus 590 for the Bills. So you're getting almost a fair price at 475, 650 for the Eagles. They're at plus 900 at 13.3%. So that's pretty sizable value there. And the Lions plus 690, so just about fair odds at plus 700, but a respectable 12.6% and a top 3 probability. And we've seen the Ravens and Chiefs fall out of here a little bit. Chiefs are climbing slightly. They're back in the top 5, 7.1%. Model seems a little hesitant to totally check out on the Ravens. And I talked about this a bit on the Tuesday show solo. Maybe we can get into this a little on our own, but they're still pretty much favored to win this division. It's just about even between them and the Steelers on the sports books. Plus 2,000 to win the Super Bowl is not what you'd expect for a 1-4 team. So both the model and the sports books are believing in the Ravens here, turning it around. I have to say, I don't think they're a top 4 Super Bowl contender. I would put the 49ers, Rams above them at this point, maybe even the Bucks. But if you're interested in the value, there's some there at plus 2,000 and 7.5%. But you're really going to need to see a big turnaround from Baltimore sooner than later, though their schedule does get a little easier after this week's showdown with the Rams. And you're dealing with Lamar Jackson injury, so kind of a bit to work through there. I would personally just stick looking at these top contenders. If you think the Chiefs can do it, not a value play at 7.1% and plus 1,000, but that's 9%, so you're not very far off. 49ers are pretty much sitting where they've been all year. We like their value early on, so if you're backing a team to win the Super Bowl, it seems like you want to stick with the top. That's where the value seems to be. And realistically, I don't think there's many contenders outside this top tier. You'd probably look at Rams, Chiefs, 49ers, and the Packers below these top 3 teams. You feel like you want to put some respect on the Colts and Jaguars, both 4-1, both winning games. But after that, I don't know if anyone's winning the Super Bowl this year out of those teams. So values at the top. I'd look here if you're looking for a future. Anything on the particular your Lions, Greg, in a pretty good spot here?
I think this reflects my personal interpretation of where the league is at right now. I feel like there's 3 true favorites in Philly, the Lions, and the Bills. I do find it interesting. I thought there might be a little more separation with Buffalo. I wouldn't have been stunned to see our model reflect them with a larger gap than just a 3% gap between them and Philadelphia and Detroit. But maybe a good reminder that we could probably lump those 3 all in one tier right now, and we'll see where the dice rolls at the end of the year. I feel like if I was placing one bet here right now, it would be on the Eagles to repeat. I think them having the best odds at 9-1 out of that trio as the second favorite, only 3% behind the Bills. I just think that's the best value play if you were going to jump in on it. As good as the Bills are, and as good as Josh Allen is, there's something mental with that team that's never going to be quantifiable when you get to the postseason. I think you could argue the same with the franchise in Detroit. As much as I love my Lions, I mean, we have a proven franchise with proven guys that have won a Super Bowl that are just rolling right now, sitting there 9-1, screaming at me. I don't know if I would play it personally just right now. The more interesting thing from our model on futures right now to me, 2 teams I was looking at that are in the long shots category, both Tampa and Indianapolis, sitting here at 4-1. I almost expected to see those 2 teams jump higher up here. I mean, you mentioned Baltimore still sitting there at 1-4 as our 4th favorite. Obviously, there's injury stuff that's kind of hampering over that, but our model is really not buying either the Bucks or the Colts being serious contenders here. And my eyes would tell me otherwise. Like I really looked at both of those beyond 20-1, thinking, hey, maybe there's some value here. When Dimer says there's not, that's usually a good indicator for me to stay away from it, even though my eyes are telling me they could be long shot candidates.
Yeah, there's something about the Bucks that just vibe wise, they don't feel like that tier of contender that we have up top. Although the odds are certainly interesting when you're considering they're 4-1 plus 2,200, and that's what I'm saying is it's not even just our model holding out on the Ravens here. The Ravens are plus 2,000. They have better odds or shorter odds to win the Super Bowl than the Bucks, who are 4-1 and look pretty good. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just the pedigree of Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. That team is talented, but they just don't look good. They look fundamentally flawed and not like a real contender. Even if they turn it around, you have to wonder if what we've seen through these first few weeks when they've actually played good teams is what we're going to see in the playoffs. So, yep, Super Bowl seems like it's pretty top heavy, but maybe you find some value lurking down there if that's your game. Something else that we see here is a pretty wide open NFC. If we go to just the NFC probabilities, pretty much you could take your pick of the top 4, bet them, and sit back because all 4 of them have value or a fair price according to the Dimers model. You could theoretically bet all 4 of them and win some money, profit if either one of them wins. Though obviously you'd get burned if one of the next teams outside gets it. But the Bucks at plus 1,100, plus 1,000 for fair odds. 49ers should be about plus 690, kind of like the Lions in the Super Bowl. So you're getting an edge there. Lions should be just about plus 350, I think, at 22%. And the Eagles at even better odds than the Lions with a slightly higher probability. So wide open here. Certainly feels like any of these teams could make it. The Packers, once again, the model is just not really high on them as far as the value is concerned. And that tie may come back and haunt them. Actually, I mean, this Packers team hasn't won a game since week 2. So they're probably looking for a pretty hungry win this week against the Bengals and Joe Flacco. So, yeah, NFC's wide open here. You got tons of value. Really take your pick, bet them. And, I personally, if it were me, I'd maybe bet 1 or 2 of these. I like the Bucks for the longest odds, of course. And I think the Lions are probably a solid play, especially if you're going to take the Eagles value in the Super Bowl. Then you kind of get yourself a little bit of a hedge. But I'd probably bet 1 or 2 of these and wait and see if you can get a better price on the others over the next coming weeks. You do have the Bucks and the 49ers going head-to-head this week, which should possibly shake up the price a little bit here.
Yep. Yeah, we should see some movement for sure. And then you've got a futures parlay that you're liking here, Dave?
Yeah, so just if you look through the division probabilities here, for the most part, you've got a lot more or less decided. I mean, the Patriots 1 game back of the Bills, but look at this, 85%. Not really much value to speak of for the Patriots. This Ravens-Steelers one, I just kind of one that I don't want to touch. You have practically same odds. Obviously, the Ravens are the favorite here at 50.8%. That's value since it should be minus odds at that. But again, I'm just not touching this. This is just too volatile for me. And if the sportsbooks are telling you they don't believe a 3-1 team is going to win the division over 1 and 4, it just says don't touch it to me. But anyway, we have 3 division winners with a clear edge here. The Lions in the NFC North at plus 100 and a very substantial 64% probability. The Jaguars in the AFC South at plus 155 and another pretty substantial 44% probability. So fair odds of about 125 there. And the Chiefs in the AFC West, where are we? Right here at plus 190 and 36.3%. So the Chiefs are the current model favorite to win the AFC West, only a game behind the Chargers and the Broncos. Chargers kind of look like they're in free fall with the injuries. It's a bummer because they're an exciting team to watch. The Broncos, still don't know if we know exactly what they are, but the Chiefs look like they're getting their mojo back a bit. Probably could have won that game against the Jaguars if not for the pick 6, 99-yard return. So, all 3 get value. If you play all 3 together, plus 1379 for a futures parlay. If you don't want to play the parlay, play them each individually, but you're getting an edge on all 3 here. And there's only a few divisions really up for grabs as far as bettable odds, being the NFC North, AFC South, and AFC West. So get a little piece of that while you can, if that interests you. I played it this morning myself, so hopefully we'll see this come out in the end of the season, or at least see the odds move in our favor after a week or 2.
It will be interesting to watch. I endorse all 3 of those individually. Lions at even money right now is just crazy value to me. I think they've clearly taken the mantle from Green Bay in the last 2 weeks. So the Chiefs are probably the scariest, which the odds reflect that to me. But still, when showing value, I love that. If that's the weak link in your parlay, in theory, Patrick Mahomes, it's a pretty strong link to have. So I say we lock that in. I say we get a mutual Dimer Sports Betting podcast card on that and sit back and watch that one play out for the rest of the season. Reminder, if you enjoy our futures conversations, you can get futures updates in real time all season long. Dimers Pro is what you need to be able to check for yourself anytime you want. 50% off Dimers Pro with promo code podcast. Make sure you take advantage of that right now. And you can find these updates on your own without waiting for us twice a week. All right, it's Thursday night football tonight. Eagles and Giants. We are going to do a little screen share of what our model has for Thursday night football, and then we can unveil our TNF same game parlay as well. Eagles minus 7.5 was the spread, the total at 40.5. And it looks like our model is projecting right around those lines. Pretty accurate line this week from our odds makers here, Dave.
Yeah, basically a coin flip on both the spread and the total, which is pretty rare. Usually we see it on maybe one of those. Understandable. We know the NFL are very sharp lines, so not always uncommon to see the model pretty much sitting along that range. And you get the juice on the spread or the either side of the over-under, so you're never going to truly see 50-50 reflected in the odds on the books. But we have both of them tonight. Kind of feels like a classic divisional clash, which it seems like we're getting just about every Thursday night this week in the NFL, which is maybe for better or worse. It's kind of led to, I think, more interesting games on what has kind of traditionally been a dud of a night. So we're getting at least interesting games, ones where teams don't particularly have fondness for one another. But on this one, it's looking like a total toss-up as far as the under or the total and the spread are concerned. If you look at the money line, very favorable for the Eagles, 77%, minus 370 odds. That's no surprise there. So combined 3 and 7 to the under for these teams probably makes you feel like the under's in play here. The Giants, I think, are going to have some trouble scoring in this game. They kind of thought they were looking like they're going to crown the second coming of Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith the other day with Scadaboo and Jackson Dart, only to come straight back down to earth and lose to the Saints, giving them up their first win of the year. Just not really a team that inspires a lot of confidence in any skill player, especially with Malik Neighbors out. And this is probably the worst team the Eagles have played all year. And on the flip side of that, probably the best team the Giants have played. Logic would kind of tell you a blowout here. A get-right game for the Eagles after another disappointing second half against the Broncos, which ultimately led to a loss, their first of the season. So my gut is definitely telling me this is all Eagles all the time tonight. What that actually holds, we're not gonna know until game time. No real value, so to speak, on any game line here. Giants money line. 23% probability, but a negative edge. So no value in backing the upset in what doesn't really feel like a plausible upset. And like we said, 50% on the spread and total. So I'm probably more comfortable fading those markets, looking at prop bets in this game, trying to find a couple alternate lines with some plus money. There are some angles I like, which I think we'll get into pretty quickly. But overall, on the game lines, this is just not a very appealing game to bet on. And I think we're seeing that justified by the model here.
Yep. It's a scary number too. You always hear me talk about key numbers. 7.5 is an absolute, I don't want to touch it number. I mean, you could convince me that if you want to back the Giants, that catching a full touchdown is favorable, but you just laid out all the reasons for it to be uneasy. With the rookie quarterback running back duo, as fun as they are, this is a big test. The Super Bowl champions on a primetime game. It's a big moment. I don't think we have enough data on who those guys are. So, I see 50-50 splits on both the spread and the total here. Anytime I see that, that's usually a great indicator of stay away for me. Maybe look for some live value opportunity if one team jumps out to an early lead, especially if the Giants were able to jump out with an early lead. I might look to live bet Philly, depending on what happens with the live line there. But yeah, pregame, nothing for me. You mentioned you've got some betting angles to take a closer look at. What are you thinking there?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one's probably just what is this Eagles offensive identity? It kind of seems like it changes week to week, weeks without very much passing volume. They tried to correct that this past week with Hurts throwing almost 40 Passing attempts resulted in 17 points, their lowest output of the season, and a loss. I think A.J. Brown only brought in a handful of his 9 targets for very hollow yards. At the same time, Hurts has had under 25 passing attempts in 2 weeks. He's throwing for a career low 6.4 yards per attempt. So even when they are passing, it's not down the field. They're not pushing the ball. They're not going for the big play. It's really weird, honestly. This team is pretty stacked with all this receiving talent between A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, who's certainly a top 10 tight end in the game. And yet they just can't seem to get the ball rolling the way they were last year. Saquon Barkley hasn't quite had his breakout games. Seems like he was having one every other week last season. And the second half has just plagued this team all year long. They've scored once in the second half in 3 separate games, scoreless in the fourth quarter in all 3 of those games. Not good when you're trying to close games out, when you're trying to put the nail in the coffin against better teams, and probably going to be a problem come the postseason. So this Eagles team is just really searching for their offensive identity here. I don't know if we're going to see it tonight, given the short week and the quick turnaround. Frankly, I think this is just going to be a let Saquon run loose game. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and possibly some betting angles to exploit there, even though he's going to clearly be a very favorite player and high bet. We could probably find some unique angles on him given the competition that they're going to have in the Giants. So, excuse me. It's going to be interesting to see how they actually deploy Jalen Hurts tonight, because their attempt to grease the squeaky wheel with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith just did not work out last week, and they're probably only going to get more disgruntled as time goes on.
Yeah, the more I think about this as we talk through it, to your point, last week there was like a pretty clear let's get certain guys involved game. And for lack of a better way to term this, I don't know how much I'm allowed to swear on this program, but it bit them in the ass, right? So the more I talk about this, I don't know if there is like an angle I could see with this game. It might be a full-blown no nonsense, we're pissed off Philadelphia performance, which I think would lean heavily into Saquon Barkley and would result in our first huge Saquon game of the season. But I don't know, man. It's hard with a team with this many weapons. It really is, because they have so many different ways they can beat you. Betting player props with the Eagles is like my least favorite team to bet player props with.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. Both of them are projected for under 70 yards in this game. The Giants haven't allowed a multiple 70-yard receivers in any game except against the Cowboys. One of those was a tight end, and they're allowing 40 points in that game. I don't think we're going to see that again tonight. Giants have been way more of a run funnel as well, with 140 rushing yards per game. It really does feel like the logic is just going to be let's smash mouth this game, give the ball to Saquon, let him tear it up on his former turf, try to just get through this week. You get a head start to everybody else, so you can just cross this one off the calendar, move forward, try and figure out what this team's offensive identity is moving forward, because you're going to have to find an efficient passing game down the stretch. But yeah, like we said, I just don't think it's going to happen tonight. Certainly feels like the Saquon game. And as we mentioned, he's back in MetLife for the second time in his Eagles career. Projects as clearly the top runner in this game with 88 rushing yards, about 20 yards in the passing game. But like we said, we're still waiting for that huge Saquon game. He had 11 games with 100 rushing yards in 2024. He has 0 this season. He has 3 games with less than 50 rushing yards this season. He had 1 such game in 2024. He has not hit 100 total yards yet, meaning 5 games without the century mark, and he's only had 3. He only had 3 of those in 2024. It's just not the Saquon we saw last year. Is it because he's tired from carrying the Eagles last season. Maybe it was a good thing Jalen Hurts vultured him for all those tush pushes at the goal line, because he might be running for even lower than his career low yards per carry of 3.2 right now. 5.8 last year. That was 3.9 and 4.4 in his last 2 seasons with the Giants. It's just not what we expect from Saquon. And I don't know if you're concerned yet, but if we don't see it maybe tonight, especially against the Giants in a blow-up spot against their rushing defense, allowing over 140 yards per game, maybe it is time to start worrying about what his actual output can be this year, and if we're seeing more than just an average regression to the mean.
I look at that game last year when it was his first game back in MetLife, and I believe it was his second highest regular season rushing total in terms of yardage. Now, it wasn't like they were force feeding him the ball. That's the one precautionary thing here. He only had 17 carries in that game. That was actually near the very low end of the spectrum. Yep. It was a 28-3 win. So it was much more about just success, breaking big plays. He averaged 10 yards a carry in that game. But I don't know. You could make the argument to me that Saquon does care about being back in this facility. And if there was a time for him to get back alive, it would be tonight. So I do think that's probably my only add to the card as we talk through this. Is going to be a couple different Saquon Barkley variations. I'm sure if you're looking to ladder Saquon anything, whether that's touches, yards, good luck. You're going to have some pretty nuked numbers there already, given that he is the most talented running back in the league. But it might be even a look like, I wonder, let me look at this live. What are the Saquon Barkley 2 touchdown odds?
I actually got that in the notes because it's part of, slight teaser here. We have him to score a touchdown in the parlay. So I looked at that just for some comparison. Plus 340, plus 350. So kind of respectable. We got him at 20% to do that. So pretty much right on.
That seems fair.
One way. Yeah, it does, honestly. I'm almost surprised it's not shorter. I mean, this is a guy who was 240, 250, minus 240, 250 to score an anytime touchdown last season. So yeah, it's probably an appropriate price. If you're looking for the blow up game, 2 touchdowns from Saquon is probably a pretty good bet. I will say I played him for first quarter receiving yards earlier today. It's recently become one of my favorite markets to bet. I hit a nice ladder with McCaffrey last Thursday, with Kincaid on Sunday. Pretty much just targeting guys that we like in our parlays to get their looks early on. Saquon is plus money for 5 first quarter receiving yards tonight. It's like plus 118. So that's one catch realistically, and he can take one to the house and cash this in one play. So that I played him 5, 10, and 15. I'll probably look for 20, 25 for some smaller units. They didn't have those on FanDuel when I looked, but yeah, it's a Saquon game for me. Pretty much the only thing I'll be touching from an Eagles perspective tonight, except for touchdown jackpot, which real quick we talk about. I'd probably lean tight end in this one. I usually do. So I think a Dallas Goedert. It's just kind of hard for me to envision it not being one of the big guys here to get the first touchdown, last touchdown. A blind dart throw if you're picking a giant, really. Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo feel like the guy if they can even get close to the goal line. But like we said, we think this is going to be pretty one-sided and pretty much throwing at the wall and hoping it sticks if you're picking a giant in this game, though you'll surely get a huge jackpot if he hits.
Yeah. I always trust you to guide me on the jackpot touchdown plays. I feel like, I don't know, you're always looking for somebody who's at least in the mid tier, if not further down the list, to try to make it worth it. But yeah, I think looking outside of Philly's big names, Goddard seems like the one constant in terms of red zone threat. So that would probably be my ideal play there as well. Okay. Anything else before we get to our same game parlay here? I think you and I have officially decided we're betting Saquon in various ways, but anything else you want to touch on?
Yeah, we're all aligned there from the Eagles. It's just one real quick angle for the Giants here. Probably the only one of note, to be honest, is Tyrone Tracy is going to be back. So what this means for Cam Scatteroo in the backfield, we don't really know. The model does project him to still lead 52 yards, 43% anytime TD probability, or 50 yards, 42%, compared to Tyrone Tracy, just 25 yards and 18% to score. Even Dart projects higher than Tracy in both of those markets. Scatteroo really hasn't lived up to his Chiefs game breakout since then. He's gotten the looks, and it just isn't really materialized. Now he's going to take a hit to his volume, almost definitely, even more so than he was already with Jackson Dart under center. Got to expect he's still the goal line guy because of his, truck you, head down style of running. But, it's you got value on him to score 2+ touchdowns here and 1, which is appropriate, I think. But, look at his odds. He's already, pushing past plus 150 when we were seeing him at even money and even, I think, minus 105 last week. So, wouldn't be thrilled if you got him in fantasy. Probably be pretty hesitant to start him, and it just might look like this is back to a committee, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel like I'd be careful with Scatteroo tonight, and I come to you as one of the biggest Scatteroo guys there is. But he's definitely emerged. He's been good. He hasn't exactly found his huge breakout game moment yet that some people expected with Tracy out the last couple weeks. And I don't know. This feels like one of those things, even if the Giants love Scatteroo, if Tracy is back, expect him to be involved in the passing game. Just one of those games where if you have Scatteroo in fantasy and you're like, he's the guy now, you're looking back like, damn, this is still a total committee approach if Tracy's healthy. So yeah, for me, I'm totally off all things Giants in this game. I'm just solely focused on Saquon and then trying to capitalize on some of those jackpot plays. With that said, let's turn to our same game parlay for Thursday Night Football.
Thursday Night Lotto.
All right, Eagles Giants, NFC East clash. Let's pull this bad boy up here. What do we got? Where is it? There it is. Giants versus Eagles, Thursday Night Football. Going to start off with Dallas Goedert over 33.5 receiving yards. We project him for 39.8. Normal games, he's Goddard hit this no problem. He does have 2 unders this year. One of them is a hook, and he caught 1 ball for 33 yards. And then last week where he had 9 targets but brought in just 3 of those. Both of those feel pretty anomalous to his usual production, and the model's got him at 39.8 yards in this game. He's got almost as many receptions as the disgruntled A.J. Brown, 1 fewer game, 4 touchdowns. He's a big target in key situations. If you're concerned about the half yard, you can take him for 30+ for a little worse odds. Next, we got Saquon. We're going to take him over 16.5 receiving yards. Saquon has 3 targets in all but 1 game, at least 3 targets, actually. He's caught all but 2 targets thrown his way, all gone under this number just twice, but he crushed it in the other 3 games with 24, 30, and 58 yards, including a 47-yard catch and run in this past game versus the Broncos. Giants are allowing nearly 5 receptions out of the backfield per game. And as mentioned, we know Saquon can do this on a single play, and he might only need 1 to do so, but he might have plenty of opportunities because the Giants have the 8th best pass rush win rate. So hopefully a few more dump offs from Jalen Hurts. And play Saquon's receptions. He's actually hit that more consistently at 3+, only 1 game with 2 receptions. But we project him for 2.4, so the model is more in line with his yards prop at 19.8 yards. And as mentioned, I'm personally playing his first quarter receiving ladder and hoping that we get this early. And finally, same man, anytime touchdown. He could take it to the house. Who knows? Maybe on the first drive of the game. Very straightforward here. He's our top projected scorer in this game at 55.1%, even over Jalen Hurts. He's at nearly 20% to score 2+ touchdowns, as we mentioned. And honestly, this looks like a first quarter cash to me. Single Eagles drive here, couple dump offs to Dallas Goedert over the middle. Saquon gets in the red zone. He takes 1 and scores. So that would be pretty nice here. Got plus 375 odds on the whole thing. You can boost it or play it with a no sweat at DraftKings. They have a promo giving you your choice of those two. I played it with the boost, so getting it at a little over plus 500 here. Good bet. Hopefully we cash here. We did last Thursday. Very nearly did on Sunday Night Football. So we're hopefully catching some rhythm here and go back to back on Thursday night in week 6.
I love when, as we talk through these games, the angle we end up landing on is also reflected in some of our action for the week. And I'm glad to see Saquon twice on here because it's the only thing I feel good about in this game.
Right.
I'm also looking to, I think I mentioned the ladder numbers would be nuked if you were looking to do something fun with Saquon on a Thursday night. I think the angle there would be receiving, as you allude to here, because you can get Saquon Barkley 3 or more receptions at plus money. He's done that in 4 of 5 games this year. He's plus 250 to record 4 receptions. He's done that 3 times already this year. He had one 58-yard receiving game. You're getting over 6-1 to bet him 50-plus receiving yards. So, yeah, I think if there is a way to actually find some value, it would be laddering the receiving yards. That's reflected in Dave's whole over here as well that he spoke to. So you've convinced me. I'm tailing our same game parlay. I'm also putting a tiny little Saquon receiving ladder together as well. And hopefully we can all cash that if Goddard comes through as well. Reminder, if you enjoy our primetime parlays, we've got these for you every single Thursday night. Dimers Pro, promo code podcast. You can get 50% off and see all of these player prop projections. Get the best bets hand delivered to you for every single Thursday night football game for the rest of the year. Once we get through Thursday night, we've got a lot more fun in store for week 6. Some big storylines revolving around some injuries, a new quarterback in Cincinnati as well. But we've got 3 storylines to take a closer look at. I actually want to start with one here, Dave. I want to talk about the Chargers backfield here because what is going to happen with Amari Hampton out for the foreseeable future? I feel like we're 1 week removed from coming on here and saying that was my favorite offensive rookie of the year play here. And instead, that's dead. So if you didn't listen to me, good on you. You got some injury lock that's going to help you. Now we're left, I think, having no idea what is going to happen here. It's Hassan Haskins or Kamani Vidal, and neither has ever really had an opportunity like this. I mean, real football heads, fantasy football streamers probably know who these guys are, but there has never been a football game in their careers that either one of these guys has been looked to as it's my time to shine. Vidal was cut before the season even started. Haskins was held on to. He's been on the roster from the jump. So I think if you're looking to try and make sense of this, my guess would be that they like Haskins more, and he is the person that they lean to. However, our running back projections for this week give a slight edge to Kamani Vidal. We project 36.3 rushing yards for Vidal to 35.4 for Haskins. Same thing through the air. Vidal at 13.5 receiving yards. Haskins at 11.9 receiving yards. Interestingly enough, for anytime touchdown, we do project Haskins to be the more likely end zone finder here. 36.4% chance for a touchdown for Haskins, only a 26% chance for Vidal. We should note here as we get closer to Sunday, the only lines that you can find for these guys are on FanDuel right now, and you can get Haskins at over or under 29.5 rush yards, Vidal at over under 30.5 rush yards. Both of those are roughly 5 yards lower than what we project. So if you can find lines or if you just want to play them at FanDuel, there might be a minor bit of value. But for me, this is more a curiosity point than anything. I want to keep an eye on this. Are either one of these guys a bell cow that we could trust going forward? Is it going to be a total committee approach that depends on matchups week to week? We shall see. Do you have any thoughts on what we're going to find out from the Chargers backfield here this week?
Yeah, only that I hope it is clear. I hope that after this week we have an answer and we're not going into next week wondering pretty much the same thing, what the split is like. As you alluded to, only the fantasy football sickos even know who these guys are, have played one of these guys probably in an absolute must start somebody bye week apocalypse. I do hope that we can find some rushing lines beyond just their over-under come Sunday. This Miami Dolphins team gave up 200 yards to Rico Dowdle in a spot start this past week. That has to be exploitable in some way. So if we can get, look at these lines, 29.5 for Haskins. So 40 plus, you're talking plus money, 50 plus money. There's some nice low tier ladder potential for these two guys. If the lines are there, I wouldn't be surprised to find them or to not find them and see that they're hard to come by, as I was surprised to even find the over-under for the two of them on FanDuel. They were not on the first couple of books I looked at all.
Yeah, it's crazy. But
Yep.
Again, we'll see. With two extreme unknown guys, the possibilities are truly endless. You could tell me either one of these gets 90% of the carries and ends up with 60 yards. You could tell me that they both get alternate carries the entire game and they're both terrible. I have no idea. I'm going to sit back and watch it and not touch it. But at bare minimum, it's interesting that our model shows slight value on where the FanDuel lines are set heading into the week. I alluded to a quarterback change in Cincinnati. The Bengals trade for Joe Flacco. Flacco's trying to do something that has been very rarely done in NFL history: beat the Green Bay Packers twice in a season with two different teams. It would be a stunning development if it happens. But what are you keeping an eye on here with Flacco?
It is. Well, yeah, as we know, Joe Flacco adds yet another AFC North infinity stone to his gauntlet. He may also be going for the only guy to play for all four. And as we know, the Steelers now like they're beyond their prime quarterbacks. It was Russell Wilson, then it was Aaron Rodgers. Perhaps next year, or by the end of this season, it will be Joe Flacco himself adding the fourth AFC North jersey to his closet. Jake Browning wasn't great in relief of Joe Burrow, but Flacco hasn't actually been good either. So this is not the most puzzling move. I kind of just would have thought they'd go for someone like a Jameis Winston who's just going to sling it and YOLO it down there to Jamar Chase. But instead we got conservative veteran quarterback play. I will say Joe Flacco's veteran experience should ideally funnel this ball to the better players on the team, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, rather than seeing Browning just kind of under pressure, toss it to whoever he can, like Mike Gesicki's, or dump off to Chase Brown, who can't do anything with the yards. The problem is the Browns actually had a defense to back Flacco up in these scenarios, something the Bengals do not. I mean, the Browns with Joe Flacco almost beat these Bengals, held them to 3 points in the second half in week one. They did, that's how they beat the Packers, was because of the defense. It wasn't the Browns. It wasn't Joe Flacco. It was a brutal run game and a stout defense that just snuffed out every drive the Packers had. The Bengals simply do not have that. This looks like it's going to be a better move for the individual outlooks for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, this may just keep them placated until Joe Burrow returns, if this team can even win enough games, rather than actually result in anything positive for the Bengals as a team. I just don't see how this is going to turn them around any more than really they already were. We know Joe Flacco doesn't exactly have it left in the tank. Projections: 67.4 for Chase, 46.7 yards for Higgins. This would just about be Higgins' best game of the week or of the year, save for his 56-yard performance in week 2. Jamar Chase did manage a big game from Browning last week, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Packers have allowed just one 100-yard receiver this season. That was George Pickens in that crazy game, and I just don't think we are going to see that from Joe Flacco here. You can't find touchdown value on those receivers, and it's pretty good odds for guys like this. Plus 240 for Jamar Chase, plus 360 for Higgins. Definitely appealing straights. I could tell you our touchdown probabilities for these guys in a moment, but certainly not going to see plus 240 on Jamar Chase very often. Obviously, this is a very good defense, but 134 yards to George Pickens, certainly within the realm of possibility that Joe Flacco uncorks one to Jamar Chase. He does know how to get the ball to his better players.
Yeah, I'm betting both of those straights. I mean, 240 for Chase, I think, is crazy. If you were his quarterback, I think I would at least take a second look at those odds still. Like, he's Jamar Chase. Now, the Packers defense has been incredible. The numbers, they've only given up one 100-yard receiver through 6 weeks is crazy at this point. But I think it is legit. You got to remember, though, I think this is going to be a game script, if Vegas is right here, that Cincinnati's playing from behind the whole game. Why wouldn't they be airing it out anyway? So, yeah, I don't know. I think at minimum, Flacco's an upgrade. I certainly don't want to buy Joe Flacco stock, but Browning was so in over his head. He wasn't even making like reads. He was just totally uncomfortable the entire time. Flacco at minimum it knows what's happening out there. We don't love his arm, but I think that's going to feel like a breath of fresh air for Cincy. I'm still mad they didn't go for Jameis Winston. If they were going to make this move instead, give us the guy that wants to bomb it out all game, you know?
They're letting the Raiders have him, Greg.
It's frustrating to me, to say the least. All right, I've got one more storyline here, and yeah, I'm being selfish, of course. It's the game of the week for me this week. It's my Lions against the Kansas City Chiefs. These two franchises have a somewhat recent history, I would say. They had that big season opening game a couple years ago that was sort of Dan Campbell's announcement that he's going to be a contender. And I don't know, they've usually produced some classics when they've met in recent memory. I think this is a good spot for the Lions. Maybe that's just fan optimism from me, but it is a slightly short week for Kansas City coming off of their Monday night football game earlier this week. And we have seen Kansas City be a little bit vulnerable. You see our projections on the screen share right now. Our model has the Chiefs as a 3-point favorite. That's about right in line with where they're valued overall right now. But interesting notes here just on trends with the Chiefs in close games, especially. Last season, they were 10-0 in one-score games. Now, any sort of analyst would tell you how unsustainable that is. Like, that's close game luck. And I get it. Patrick Mahomes, I'm his biggest fan, truly. I love to back Pat Mahomes, and I hate betting against him. But even Pat Mahomes is not going to go undefeated in every coin flip game he plays. It feels like that was the far extreme end of the close game spectrum for Kansas City last year. They could have easily lost 3 or 4 more games than they did. To that point, they already have 3 losses in one-score games this year. It feels like that luck has run out, or maybe this is just a team that doesn't have the same weapons that it has in the past, and in clutch situations, they haven't found as much success. I thought Jacksonville looked pretty awesome against Kansas City on Monday night. They had some big-time performances from some of their key playmakers. And I think this Lions offense is humming right now. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs all found the end zone again last week. They've been creative. They've been explosive since that week 1 debacle against Green Bay. So I think this is a pretty player prop friendly game, regardless of how you feel about the spread. If you have certain angles or certain players on Detroit that you feel strongly about, I think the Chiefs defense opens the door for big playmakers to have big performances. On the flip side, Tyquan Thornton had another big game. I mean, even after Xavier Worthy was supposed to return, he still has had 8 or more targets in both of the games with Worthy back. But I mean, Thornton, to me, I think is here to stay a little bit. I think that Mahomes is looking his way in a way that is different than some of these wide receiver 4 and 5s we've seen in recent years. It would be nice to see Xavier Worthy sort of get that statement game back, but we haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's coming this week against the Lions defense we know is pretty good. And then lastly, just some notes on the Chiefs backfield. It's a mess right now. Patrick Mahomes is still the rushing leader for Kansas City. I mean, that's crazy to even say out loud. If you were seriously trying to look for touchdown threats, I think Patrick Mahomes is genuinely the best threat. And you got something on Mahomes?
No, it's Mahomes. Yeah, he's the touchdown threat, like the rushing touchdown. Like it's Mahomes. There's no point betting Pacheco. He has 0. Kareem Hunt's got 3, but Pacheco and Kareem Hunt have almost the exact same yards this year, 164 and 163. We're 5 games through the season. They're averaging about 30-something rush yards each per game, and Mahomes is scoring. You're going to get the better odds on him all the time, despite the fact that neither of these guys can find the end zone or get production anyway. Like I said, Hunt does have 3 touchdowns, but probably getting half the price on him as Mahomes. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Probably got to trade for Alvin Kamara or something, but right now this team just has no rushing identity.
I would actually love that for both parties for what it's worth. Get Kamara a little bit of life again with an Andy Reid offense. But yeah, especially, I don't know, if you consider this a quote unquote big game, which I do, it's a primetime game between 2 of the better contender type franchises in the league right now. Mahomes always uses his legs in those spots. He just always does. And the Lions pass rush has been pretty good. Aiden Hutchinson's probably going to get home 1 to 2 times in this game, but that's almost going to force Mahomes to have to freelance. And we know when he freelances, that's when he's most dangerous. So yeah, I'm with you. I think Mahomes finding the end zone is probably a good play here. And interestingly enough, as Pacheco gets phased out of this, they keep saying they want Rashard Smith more involved, but they keep saying it and not doing it. So yeah. I almost suspect there's going to be a moment this year where Smith just like gets 9 carries and 6 catches, and we're all like, who is that? I don't think in a primetime game against Detroit, that's the game for it. But man, you can't feel good about any of the actual running backs on the Chiefs team right now. So, all right, there you have it. There's our storylines, 3 of them for you for week 6. Without further ado, it's time to unveil our week 6 NFL best bets.
Weekend best bets.
A bounce back week here, Dave. 1-2 last week. Very rare that our best bets have not been in the green. So I'm expecting this to revert back to the norm and find payday here for us.
Yeah, Scatavoo did not come through for us with the value again, which is a little unfortunate. And we did say that the Raiders game was going to hinge heavily on Geno Smith's ability to not turn the ball over. And he went ahead and turned the ball over plenty. So we had a very big caveat in that one, but it was our place and it did not work out. But we're back. We got 3 more this week, and we're going to pull them up right now. And we're going to start off actually with one of the last games of the week, and it's in Falcons-Bills Monday Night Football, the first game of the doubleheader. Can we please stop doing Monday Night Football doubleheaders? I digress. Anyway, Falcons +5. I talked about this on the solo show on Tuesday a little bit. It was 4.5 then, moving half a point. Kind of a meaningless half a point, 4.5 to 5. Not really much there. But 56.2% probability, 3.2% edge at odds of -113. Bills are going to aim to bounce back here after that letdown against the Patriots. Seemed like they had that game within reach many times and simply couldn't close it out. Turnover-heavy game, I believe, from them. At least 2 fumbles, uncharacteristic for the most part of what we've seen from that team this year. Might not work out for them in this game because it's not going to be a very easy matchup. The Falcons defense has had 2 weeks now to rest and prepare for this Bills team, and they're bringing in a very good defense. Only 135 yards passing per game allowed by the Falcons. That's pretty locked down. I think it's the best in the league. 78.3 QB rating, and there's no true wide receiver 1 on this Bills offense, so there's no one to really intimidate this Falcons defense into a double team. It should give them plenty of opportunity to just play the game at their pace. And if they can limit the Bills' output in the air, it might not be very difficult for them to hold down James Cook, who's coming off of his worst game of the year and first without a score. Another gripe I have with the Bills not letting James Cook in from like the 2-yard line this past week. But it's not a matchup I'm really comfortable going all in on the Bills just because they're the Bills. So I am pretty in with the models pick here. You'd like to maybe see a +6 or something, but I understand why it's not. The Falcons are home and they're well rested. Bijan Robinson is as explosive as anyone in this game. Bills are allowing over 140 rushing yards per game, 5.6 yards per carry. Real nightmare matchup, honestly, on paper here. So I'm very comfortable riding with the Falcons in this game. Feels like maybe the books know something we don't, giving us this number, but the matchup really lines up well for Michael Penix and the Falcons in this one.
Do you trust the Bills, Dave?
I trust the Bills to win in the long term, but in a week to week game like this with kind of everything pointing at Atlanta, no, I don't.
The Pats game just felt so uncharacteristic from the Bills in so many ways. And I feel like this is either a total we messed up, flip the script, we're still the Bills spot, or it's kind of a sign of some cracks in the armor here. If the model says cracks in the armor, I should probably just blindly trust that it's cracks in the armor. But I don't know. Something about it. That Pats game felt so fluky to me. Even with all the data, I just have like a sour taste in my mouth to say I'm going to fade Josh Allen this week.
Yeah, it's not one you feel good about doing. It's hard to fade it, the MVP favorite. But sometimes that's where the spots are made. And we've seen the Sean McDermott Bills kind of snowball a little bit before they stop the whole avalanche from coming down. So this just might be another one of those games. It's kind of, early season trap game, so to speak. So I like this one though. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play all three of these as I always do with the model's best bets, but in particular, this one I do like it despite the Bills.
All right, I'm on number 2 with you. Jags money line against the Seahawks. Give me the pitch for the Jags here, although this Jags team is rolling. I don't know how much convincing we even need to do right now.
Yeah, I don't think you need a whole lot. I think we had to do this last week. You said convince me of the Jags at +4.5 versus the Chiefs, and it was pretty easy to do so, and it turned out that it worked in our favor. 55.9% probability, 3.0% edge here. Neither one of these is a super smash value spot, but you're getting a little bit better of a number. And both the Seahawks and Jaguars in this game, depending where you look, are minus odds. It's pretty much a pick 'em. And for a matchup that's just about 50-50 on the books, with the Seahawks, I think, sitting around -102, -104 last I saw. Model does actually have a pretty definitive pick at just about 56% on the Jaguars. So that's for what on the books is a toss-up. The model's got its pick, and that's usually worked out well for us on the show. Both defenses here are very good. Both teams are 4-1, and it's not a fluky 4-1. They've won some pretty good grinder games. They have a shot at division supremacy, depending what happens with the Colts, Niners, and Rams on Sunday. Got to feel pretty good if you're the Jags coming off the win versus the Chiefs. They get to play at home. A lot at stake in this matchup. You're getting good money line odds. You're not paying a lot of juice here, like a -130, -140. So I think this is a really good spot, good price, and you have to like the Dimer spots edge in this one.
Yep. I just think the Jags are good. I think they're very good. I think they had a very good hire coaching-wise in the offseason. That's being really not discussed nearly enough. The locker room just seems flipped mentality-wise, even though they've always had talent. And, I'm in on this. I think I was surprised to see it basically as a pick 'em. To your point, I would have thought Jags would be favored by almost a field goal here. But I think the more I think about it, it's probably the short week would be my guess. Jags coming off a Monday night emotional win spot-wise. It's probably a little bit scary, but man, I would probably bet this Jags team in any spot right now. And as good as the Seahawks have been this year, I think the Jags have been better. So I am standing in alignment with the model after being afraid. I'm just a coward to fade Josh Allen. I'm right back with you. We are, however, going to present a Seahawks player prop here as our third best bet of the week. Zach Charbonnet to find the end zone, huh? +190.
Yeah, so great value here, not only just in his odds, but also when you look at how he stacks up with Ken Walker in the same game. This is our highest probability touchdown prop that has an edge this week at 39.3% and a 4.8% value. So not a lot of top tier touchdown guys with an edge this week. This would be fair odds of about +150. So clear value there. This season, Charbonnet has 13 red zone carries for 3 touchdowns, exactly the same as Ken Walker. He would have 4 if not for Jackson Smith and Jigba's holding penalty, in which he got a very stern look from the referee with his choice words to describe said penalty. But if you look, Charbonnet's got almost the same touchdown probability as Ken Walker at 42.3%. Yet Walker is minus 115 odds on the same book at Bet365. It's just simply a huge difference in odds for players projected at just about the same probability. Jags defense has been very good with only 4 rushing scores, but you're getting really good value here. The Seahawks just put up like a 40 piece, I think. There's a good opportunity here for them to score. As mentioned, Charbonnet gets the red zone work that he needs to do this, and the odds are simply incorrect according to the Dimers model. Very good straight bet here on Charbonnet at plus 190. And if you were crazy enough and you parlay it with the Jaguars money line, you'll get some pretty nice odds because they reverse correlate.
I love it. Yeah, I don't know if goal line back is the term. Maybe red zone back is the term. But I feel like how many Seahawks games have you watched this year and even years past where Kenneth Walker looks unstoppable and he goes on like a 47-yard reception run and then gets down to the 12-yard line and just immediately goes and gets a Gatorade while Charbonnet punches it in? Yeah. It's kind of like the Lions approach of Sonic and Knuckles. However, I don't know. It just feels like Charbonnet is usually the recipient anytime they get close, and Walker kind of is relied upon on the early downs at the beginning of drives more. I don't know if the numbers even back that up. It's just what my eyes tell me, but I 100% agree with our model's belief that Charbonnet and Walker to score should be around the same odds, and that's not how the sports books have been valuing this whatsoever. So he punched it in last week. I have Charbonnet on every fantasy team I have this year. It can be a week-to-week grind, but for now, plus 190 feels phenomenal. I think you've got to add that on the card.
Yep. So there you go. All 3 bets for the week. Falcons plus 5, Jaguars money line, and Zach Charbonnet to score a touchdown.
Boom, baby. I love it. Promo code podcast. That's how you get 50% off Dimers Pro. You get all of these insights for every single NFL game this season and plenty more sports as well. It's not just NFL that our model has best bets for on a day-to-day basis. Make sure you take advantage now. Get that 50% off and join us as we bet our best bets throughout NFL season. It is time for our first touchdown round, Rob and Dave. And I don't want to take away any thunder from you. There's a little bit of a reveal here. We're seeing some new names on the first touchdown round robin this week that I think are making their debuts in their careers on the round robin for the first time. Who are we going with this week?
Yep. So not only a couple fresh guys here on the round robin, but we're also switching it up a bit. We've gone with strictly our top 5 overall probabilities through the first 5 weeks. It got us a ×3 in week 1, cashed in anytime TD parlay in week 1 and week 4, but we haven't been able to get the round robin hit that we want for the first touchdown. So we're going to switch it up just a little bit here. We are going to use some top probabilities, but we're also mixing in some guys in very good matchups, and hopefully we're going to take advantage of those and exploit some defenses this week. Starting off with Jonathan Taylor at 17% and plus 340. Taylor's our second highest probability of the whole week. 7 total touchdowns for Taylor this season, 2 games with 3+. Despite having all the big play ability, 6 of his touchdowns have come in the red zone, so he's not dependent on scoring via the big play. Does have a little Daniel Jones vulturing to worry about. He does get a pretty good Cardinals defense this week, allowing a touchdown on 47.1% of red zone trips. But this offense runs through JT. He's our second highest probability of the week, and we're going to roll with him here. Next up, Ashton Genty, 15% at plus 370. This is his first time in here. The Raiders offense is a little tough to back because of Geno Smith's ability to turn the ball over at will. But they're facing the Titans, who've allowed 10 rushing scores this season. There are only 3 other teams in the NFL who have allowed at least 7. They're giving up almost 150 rushing yards per game. Genty has converted 16 red zone touches into 3 touchdowns. Hopefully Geno Smith doesn't get in the way of this. They just let Genty tear it up, run with the ball, and get in there. But the Titans have 2 games without an offensive TD at all. The last game, they didn't get one until 2 minutes left. The Raiders should score first here, and hopefully it's via Genty on the ground or through the air. Next up, Kyren Williams, 14% at plus 350. This one was a bit of a toss-up between Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua, but Puka's odds are almost the same. He's like plus 440, and we've got him at only 9%, so we have to take the odds here and the probability. We're going to get the Ravens' bottom-tier rushing defense, allowing 1.2 rushing TDs per game. They gave up a 27-yard rushing TD to old Nick Chubb last week, a 72-yard run to Montgomery a couple of weeks ago. Even Isaiah Pacheco's longest run of the season, which was 12 yards at that time, came against the Ravens. Kyron Williams has converted 20 red zone touches into 4 total TDs. Ravens have the second worst red zone defense in the game with a 76% red zone conversion rate. Now we're switching it up here with 2 wide receivers in great spots. Rookie Emeka Egbuka at 10% and plus 800. Almost fair odds here. Greg's guy.
My guy, dude. I love seeing
He
Emeka
loves
anywhere.
to see
I'm
this.
so happy to see him on this.
This was a reveal for you, and he loves it. 49ers just allowed a huge game to Matt Stafford this past week. Almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. You can really feel the lack of a pass rush from the 49ers defensive front without Nick Bosa. They've given up 8 passing touchdowns this year. We don't really know what their offense is going to look like in this game between quarterback and receivers, so we're not touching it. Meanwhile, Egbuka is already one of the best receiving threats in the league this season. Scored in all but one game. He still caught 6 for 85 in that one. He's Baker's go-to, and it's a team that just simply hasn't found much success on the ground at all this year, so we're going to happily ride with their strength in the passing game. And finally, Quentin Johnston, 8% at plus 1,000. The Dolphins feel like a defense you have to attack this week, but we're avoiding the backfield, as we mentioned, because we just don't know what it's going to be. And that's even more of a reason you might expect a more pass-heavy game for the Chargers, who are in desperate need of a statement victory. Go with what's worked. What's worked is Quentin Johnston finding the end zone. Haskins has an 8.6% first TD probability. He's plus 650. Johnston is almost the exact same, and he's plus 1,000. So you're getting much better odds. This is actually pretty much a fair price, and we're getting a very vulnerable Miami defense, allowing 1.2 touchdowns per game to wide receiver. Play it round robin, times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5. Play it as an anytime TD parlay on the side if you are so motivated to do so. We've had some luck with that, as mentioned, twice this year. I certainly will be. And I have already played this as the first touchdown round robin. It's already locked in my bet slips.
I love it. It's one of the most fun ways to bet. We do it every single week, and we unveil it live on the Thursday episode of this show every single week as well. Let us know if you tail along with this. And thank you, Dave, for presenting that as always. That's also a good spoiler because we are going to conclude the show here in just a moment with what we individually like for week 6. And one of my names just got some love in our first touchdown round robin. You can probably guess who it is. First, though, Dave, you get to go first. And you cashed your play on this last week. So take a round of applause. Take a victory lap for us.
We did, though. However, I should technically say the play cashed. I did not cash because, as I mentioned on Tuesday, I took my guys for 60 yards instead of 50 so that I could meet the profit boost requirements. And I watched George Pickens finish with 57 at a game I was watching in person, catching a huge touchdown in front of me. So a little disappointed there. But if you followed my actual advice, which is probably the better move than what's going on behind the scenes in my brain, then you cashed. But it was a good theme. We liked it. We're going to stick with it this week. Plus 22.85 parlay of 50-plus receiving yards and an anytime touchdown. Cortland Sutton versus the Jets. Teteroa McMillan versus the Cowboys. And Devontae Adams versus the Ravens. All 3 of these guys are projected for 65-plus yards and a 35% anytime TD probability in the Dimers model. Opponents of the Jets, Cowboys, and Ravens have all allowed at least 11 passing touchdowns each this season. I put a little tiny 5% boost on it. Got it plus 2,400. Love this one this week. Hopefully all these guys come through, starting with Cortland Sutton over in London on Sunday morning.
Nothing better than having like a little parlay that relies on the morning leg and you wake up and it's already cashed by halftime of the morning leg. Just feels like you get your day off on the right foot. Dave, I've been loving the outlook from you with these solo plays from you or these individual outlooks where you put together the 3 receiver parlays. It's been fun to play along with. And as you mentioned, you gave great advice last week. So we should probably all follow in line with you. I want to be just like you. So I'm not just taking your concept directly, but I am going after 3 pass catchers here, many of whom have been mentioned on this show in various ways already. We both have Tito McMillan involved. It was good for me to see that you and I both have him when we get to what we like this week. I keep beating a dead horse on this. I want the top pass catching threat against the Cowboys every single week. That's what Tito McMillan is. Now, Garrett Wilson was in my play for last week. He did not nearly have as many receptions as I'd hoped, but he did find the end zone late in that game against Dallas. Yeah. I just think it's inevitable one way or another. The Dallas is going to give up a passing touchdown to the primary target. Tito is that. Just throw him to find the end zone in as a baseline. Then I'm also taking Emeka Egbuka and Amon-Ra St. Brown to find the end zone. It feels like Amon-Ra always gets in the end zone in primetime games. And we've talked about why Kansas City has been vulnerable to some of the superstar primary option types. Amon-Ra is that. Jameson Williams has been a total non-factor for Detroit this year. Kansas City secondary likes to play back and leave underneath routes. I think Amon-Ra is going to feast. And then Egbuka, we made the pitch in the first touchdown round robin, but the fact that this guy is still catching plus money any week right now with the injury concerns in the rest of the Tampa Bay receiving room, it baffles me. He's jumped from about plus 170 down to about plus 125 individually. So the books are catching up to what he is. But as long as you're giving me plus money for Emeka, I just think this is one of my favorite bets week in and week out right now. Give me McMillan, Egbuka, and Amon-Ra St. Brown each to find the end zone. It's just over 10-1 at DraftKings Sportsbook. 6 receivers for us this week, Dave. Technically 5 because McMillan's on both. Hopefully they can all come through for us.
Yeah, it'll be great. Feels like we've been very close or pretty on with some of our stuff at the end of the week. And, we're just showing you guys one way to use the Dimers data. We are just taking what's on site and flipping it into what we already like, looking at some matchups and trying to build something good for you guys.
Amen to that. All right, it's time to conclude our show. But first, what else is on Dimers this week?
What's on Dimers this week?
Might be the biggest week yet since we started the show. We've got NHL back. We've got the WNBA final. It is one game away from cashing our Aces future at plus 1,300 or plus 2,000, depending when you got it. A little sad to see the Mercury peter out here, but no matter which one you tailed, you're getting a winning ticket when this finals is over. Our golf predictions update after every round. This tournament is in Japan, so it tees off in the evenings. So you're going to have to, check in the mornings for the updates rather than in the evening after the rounds conclude. A couple of our guys are in play here. Kurt Kitayama, he's 3 shots back, plus 2,600. I shouted out Alex Noren at 2,200 and Michael Thorbjornsson at plus 3,500. On Tuesday, as guys that I liked, both are 2 strokes back. Noren has some value at plus 1,200 according to the Dimers model right now. If you missed it, the NHL is back. It's an absolutely loaded slate today. 14 games, I believe. 6 of our top 8 goal scorers hit last night. I posted those on social. Almost hit a little parlay out of that if I didn't get cute and go with a third most likely guy in the Kings-Knights game. But our NHL tools are really sweet. We've added points and assists as 2 new markets this year for props and trends. So please don't sleep on the NHL tools. There's plenty on dimers.com for you. And of course, we'll have NFL coverage on site pretty much every day, something new between now and Monday night when we wrap up the slate.
Yep. Lots of sports, lots of important moments in these sports as well. Season's just beginning, playoffs, the World Series chase is on. Dimers can help guide you through it all to find some value. I do want to shout out one more thing before we wrap the program for the week here. We want to start doing some Q&As on these episodes. We want to take your questions. So there's a couple different ways you can get questions to us. You could submit your questions in our Discord. We would love to see you join the Dimers Discord community. We also have an email, thedimerspodcast@gmail.com. We're keeping an eye on that. Or simple as this, if you want to hit us on Twitter, we're paying attention. Just go right to the Dimers Twitter profile. I believe at Dimers.com is the Twitter account for Dimers. And just hit us with whatever questions you've got. Tag us in it. We will keep an eye on these. We'd like once a week going forward to do a little Q&A session, ideally on the Thursday episode. So you have about a full week at this point. If you're listening to this on Thursday, or if you're listening to us on Friday, you missed the Thursday night football segments. Well, number one, listen on Thursdays. Number two, hit us with questions for next week. We'll unveil them on Thursday's episode. Twice a week, you can get the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you please like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. All of that helps us grow the show. Dave, thank you as always. We covered a lot of great stuff in this episode. I feel like after me being out for episode 1 this week, I got 2 episodes worth of intel from Dave and the Dimers model. So
feels like it.
Thank you as always, my friend. And good luck this weekend, everybody. Remember to gamble responsibly, and we'll see you next week.